Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to Across the Border with Penny Appeal USA and Penny Appeal Canada. I am Shafaq, the Programs Manager at Penny Appeal USA, and I'm happy to welcome Komal, the Programs Manager of Penny Appeal Canada. Hey, Komal.
Hi, Shafaq. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you tonight?
Good. How's your work day?
It was pretty good. It was one of
Yeah.
the few days without meetings.
Oh,
So
nice.
I was able to get a lot done. We submitted a grant application today.
Oh, must be such a relief to just be done with that.
Yeah, it's been a long process. How was your day?
My day was good. I got to actually go outside today, and I spent I think an hour at Starbucks sending emails from there, and I felt like, oh my god, I'm back to being a normal person. So it was really good. We have anywhere you go now, you have to show proof of vaccination. So as soon as I entered, they were like, "Oh, we need to check if you're vaccinated and check your ID." And it was really odd, but I mean, it worked out. I got to work from there, so yeah, it was
Wow.
fun.
Is the Canada office still doing remote work?
Yeah, we're completely remote. So we are starting to meet once a month in person, and it allows us to get together and ask each other questions and kind of work through things we have to get done. But overall, we're completely remote.
Wow.
Are you guys
Yeah.
back in?
We are starting to go back into the office next week. We'll be meeting once a week. I'm rather excited to be back with kind of the staff and
Yeah.
be engaging because we think it's going to be definitely an opportunity to get new ideas flowing again.
Yeah, and it's nice to see your team in person and the people you're doing all this work with are no longer just on a screen. You get to, actually see them. So it must be awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. Well, we're really excited to be talking. We both have the pleasure of being programs managers for the Penny Appeal offices. We do get to coordinate and chat. Unfortunately, we haven't had the opportunity to meet in person.
Soon.
Soon. We're still waiting for those borders to open up. But we're here to answer all the possible questions about programs and, you know, what even kind of got you into programs initially?
So I studied global health in undergrad. Then I enjoyed it so much, I guess, that I thought, you know what, let's go to grad school for this too. So I did that. And then when I finished grad school, I thought, okay, programs is where I want to be. I really enjoy the process of ideating and then seeing something through from start to finish. And so that's kind of how I ended up within the program space, and obviously not for profit, and the humanitarian sector just aligned really well with what I had studied and what I was passionate about. So that's kind of how I ended up here. How about yourself?
I'm of the few people who studied this in school. So I got my degree in international development. I always had a passion for helping people and trying to find solutions uh, and really seek out how I can make others' lives better. And so I studied it in school. I was fortunate enough to get a job in it. And many years later, here I still am. Very thankful for the work I get to do. I like to say that I'm one day working myself out of a job, but I think there's still a long way to go.
Yeah. I think that's the most fun part, right? About the work that we do. It's like you're working to create solutions for other people. And so it makes the work so much more meaningful. So even though you're doing the 9 to 5, and I know for us there's a lot of paperwork involved and a lot of correspondence is involved, but at the end of the day, what I'm doing is going to directly impact people's lives. And the reward that you get out of that is just unreal. So
Yeah. And we get to see a lot of the impact, right? It's through the reports that we read or the images that we receive from the field. And hopefully, once travel opens up again, even being able to visit these projects
yeah.
and evaluate how they're doing. And that brings so much joy. But you're right, especially in the day to day, it's easy to lose sight of that and to kind of feel like you're kind of always on the computer, but it's a good
Mhm.
reminder.
Yeah, I think especially that report piece, right? Because very few people outside of the organization are reading even our quarterly reports and our annual reports, but we get to see every single project progress report. We get to speak with our implementing partners and really hear about what is the need and then how that one solution that we implemented is addressing that and supporting communities. And I think that's honestly incredible. So yeah, we're really lucky that we get to do it.
Yeah. You actually bring up a really good point, especially about, how we track the program's progress. Let's walk a little bit more deeply into that, right? Because oftentimes I think our donors, they get to see the final reports. If they get published online, they see media throughout, but there's a lot of follow-up that we do on a daily basis. So what does that typically look like for you?
Yeah, so for us, what that normally looks like is at the start of a project, of course, leading into the signing of a proposal and funding agreements, et cetera. We have a lot of calls with our partners, right? I'm sure you guys have the same thing. There's a lot of consultations involved. There is discussions on, okay, what is meaningful, what is appropriate for the context, et cetera. And then once the project has actually started, we, at the start of the project, have established milestones, right, that we're going to check in. So for us, that can look like, quarterly updates is typically what we do, where we connect with our partner, they submit a report, we're reviewing it, we're seeing what did we set out to do versus what has happened to date, and then addressing, well, how do we change the project to make sure that it is fulfilling everything we set out to accomplish. And then all of our reporting, and then finally at the end of the project, we have our completion report, which is my favorite part of every project is closing off a nice completion report and looking at really what is the impact that we've had in this project cycle and then what is next, right? Because for us, it's really important to not just do one-offs in a community. It's okay, well, we worked on this together. Now what else can we do? How do we scale this project, et cetera? So that's how it looks like for us. How about for you?
Yeah, that's completely it for us as well. I mean, especially those check-ins while the project is ongoing is key, right? Because that's when okay, do we need to make adjustments? Is this going how we planned? Because realistically, what you think is going to happen, unfortunately, is not always the case, right?
Yeah.
I think COVID was a beautiful example because we were ready to start construction on solar wells right before COVID hit. And then, we got messages from the field saying, no one's coming to work. We got to stay in lockdown. Materials aren't coming in. And so even when you're well-intentioned, even if there's always going to be something that happens, and being prepared to be flexible is really the key. And that's why the communication with the field team is so critical.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're seeing that still now, just as I am, that even though in North America, it seems like COVID has kind of settled down, folks are vaccinated, we're feeling comfortable moving out and about. In other countries, that's not the case. So like I'm still seeing project delays even now. And the reason is COVID. People either themselves caught it, they have family members, for whatever reason, there's a challenge in moving goods. So we're still seeing COVID delays, and in addition to recent more emergency crises, have really impacted just how our projects are being done in the field. And it's unfortunately a challenge that you and I can't fix sitting here. So that close relationship with our partners is making such a difference.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. We have gotten very comfortable being out and about, kind of feeling it being over, but certain countries are also still going through lockdowns or aren't allowing others in. And so that's been quite a bit of a challenge for us. We're ready to go out and see our projects, to be there. And so finding new ways to still be engaged with them.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're having to be more creative, I think, because of COVID. And I think that's good, right? Because now the way we approach programs is very different than it would have been 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know how project starts. We know how the follow-up happens. But in your experience, like what has been either your favorite project or your favorite program area that you love to do programming in? And I know technically as a programs manager, every project is beautiful. Every program area is equally important.
I have favorites.
But if you had to pick one, what would it be?
Ooh. So I do love all of them. I care about all of them. Most recently, or kind of what has my heart, is our domestic violence shelter in North Carolina. this was one of the first assignments I had coming on to join the Penny Peel USA team, was to open up the shelter. And we were fortunate enough to open up last year. And we've essentially been full since we opened.
Wow.
And so seeing the direct impact that it's had on women and victims has been so eye-opening. And I actually had the benefit of going there earlier this month. So I spent a week at our shelter, and these women really feel nurtured. You know, they feel love, which they haven't had the benefit of in the past, and they really change. Both being able to get jobs, get back on their feet, be independent, and so mental health has always been an interest of mine, and being able to provide a space for that and has been a blessing. I can't gush
Awesome.
about it enough.
Yeah, I've been following your shelter and seeing that, like just seeing how you guys set it up and everything online. I know you guys do a great job of featuring the program side of it online. But I do have a question actually. So for folks in the US who want to support the shelter, how can they do that? Like what are ways that folks can work with you guys on that?
Absolutely. So the best way is honestly to donate to the shelter, whether that be monetarily, you can visit our website for it, or you can even donate kind of through our Amazon Smile account. We have a wish list of items. We're in constant need of things like cleaning supplies, sheets, food, also kind of entertainment. A lot of these women come with their children, and so books and toys for them, any way that we can kind of keep them entertained outside of school is really helpful. We don't allow visitors because we do like to protect the safety of the residents and ensure that, you know, they feel like this is their home, not anything else. But DV month is also next month. So just raising awareness around domestic violence, how prevalent it is in our communities, is another way that you can help, right? Advocate for the rights of domestic violence victims.
Yeah, I think that's an area that gets overlooked sometimes by us, right? And we saw in COVID that there was a huge spike in reporting against domestic violence and people experiencing that. And I know here we don't have a shelter yet, but what we have been doing is supporting a lot of mental health programs domestically. And that's really been a way for us to support folks who maybe have are recovering from domestic violence or seeking support somewhere. So I think those kinds of programs, like you're saying, when you get to actually see it domestically, it holds a special place in your heart. That's different.
It hits a little harder. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. I know internationally, my favorite, I have two.
Oh, tell us. Okay.
My favorite is income generation programs. I always love them. I know they're a bit long term, and they're not programs that you see the impact of right that second, right? They're not one that within 5 seconds you're like, okay, cool, we did something amazing here. They take some time to cultivate. Sorry. But I feel like those programs end up being the most beautiful ones because you're taking someone who is receiving zakat to being a zakat giver ultimately, right? That's the goal there. So those are my favorite. And then education first. And I'm sure my team, if they're watching this, they're laughing because I'm always asking everyone to push education first. So that is my other favorite program area is, yeah, anything kids related, education related. I love them.
That's fair. I mean, education first is a little, easier to understand. Can you walk us through, especially the income generation projects? Because I think often people don't kind of fully fathom, right? Like we can understand food parcels, we can understand giving a child education, but what does it mean for an income generation project?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So how we have approached income generation at Penny Peel Canada so far has been skills training and opportunity for employment. So the few projects that we've done in income generation have been ones where we start with trading folks. So I think you guys did a project similar to this as well, where you provided goats and cattle, something like that.
Yes,
but livestock, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful project because you're giving someone livestock. they're taught how to, one, take care of the livestock, how to, if it's a cow, they're milking it for their family, they're using that cow around the home, but then they're also generating an income because they're taught how to basically carry out different types of jobs in their communities, provide a service to others, and then they're basically just exactly that, generating an income through this. And the goal is that now that they've generated, say, enough to buy a second cow, they're investing their money back into their business. And they're taught that at the start of the project. They're taught bookkeeping. They're taught how to just see the project, not project for them, but see this income generation tool as just that, rather than seeing it as just a means to eat or means to drink milk. So those kinds of programs I really love, because you're providing someone with something very tangible at the start, but that that's going to provide for them long term. But we have other programs where it's very practical skills training. So I know in Nepal, we did one where these Zakat eligible women engaged in different types of craft trainings. They were taught how to make bangles. They were taught how to make dolls, different types of things that they can sell locally. And then we also provided them with the startup material, so they could now start their own businesses. So they had enough items that they could start selling. They can make the item, they could sell it, and then with that funding, obviously support their family, but then do more. So
we did
that's
something
kind of income generation for us.
in Brazil with,
oh, yes, you did.
with women, where they were, it was the same idea. They already have these skills. They just need the startup materials, and then potentially how to expand their businesses, because oftentimes the community already has all these skills. So how can they expand it beyond their market, right? And we came across the issue of, well, now they can't even leave their homes. So how can we get them online and provide them access to the internet, and they can start selling things online? But yeah, I completely agree with you when it comes to income generation, right? You can't see the impact immediately. So we can talk about it, we get final reports for it, but oftentimes these programs, you'll know how you really did a year out. And that's something that we have to also, we kind of build up, and then we wait for it to come out, I guess.
Yes, there's a bit more weight for folks in those ones. We know they're happening because we're hearing from our partners all the time, like, okay, we just did this. Okay, we just did that. So we know it's happening, and it just takes a little bit longer for people to see the images and the videos that come out of projects like that. Yeah. But so, Shafaq, I know you guys, Penny Appeal USA has been around for 5 years. Correct. Right? So you have quite a lot of experience with questions, I would imagine. So what are your most frequently asked questions that you get as a programs manager?
Honestly, mostly I get asked where someone's well is, which I completely understand. When it comes to building wells, those take kind of the longest to come together, because we do often, once the well gets fully paid, we place orders in bulk orders. So a bunch of boxed-on wells will get put together and submitted to our local partners, and then they will build them out. And so that process can take up to a year. Sometimes it takes longer, unfortunately, like we were talking about, the delays in the field. And so that's one of our biggest questions. What about you?
I get the same one. Where's my water well? Which I completely understand, right? When people give for a water well, there's typically a lot of emotions associated with it. People are giving it in honor of their loved ones. They're doing it for themselves, Sadaqah Jariyah, etc. So I can totally get why. So we've been trying to be really transparent and clear from the start that this is the timeline, this is the process that it takes. So I hope people understand that and are patient with us as well. But like you're saying, we can do everything really not quickly, but we can do it to the best of our ability sitting here and then send it off and then find out that there's so many delays. And there are delays that are out of our control. They're out of our partners' control. There's government regulations involved. There's, climate. They won't, dig in a certain amount of time. There's, it's not economically friendly for us to send out someone just for one thing. All these different variables come into play. And I think you and I both, we try our best to just mitigate risk as much as possible. And be super clear with our teams. And I know they're doing the best that they can in managing expectations. So yeah, that's that. And I also get asked quite often about orphan sponsorship and if folks can go visit. And we do have rules around that for safeguarding, et cetera, which I know both of us on our websites, it's quite clear. But that is another question that I've received quite a bit.
Yes, being able to talk to the children that they're sponsoring, be able to write letters to them, being able to visit them. Ultimately, like you said, right, it's all about the safeguarding. We want children to feel like they have as much of a normal life as possible. And for individuals to kind of come in and out of it, even when we do potential monitoring visits, we're very cognizant of the fact that we're coming into this child's life temporarily. And for someone that's an orphan, that can already be very meaningful to them. And so we completely, I feel that too, right? I want to be around children. There's so much excitement and joy in being around children. But however we can help that child's mental health and safety is our top priority.
Yeah, and what the family is comfortable with as well, right? Not all families are comfortable with that, and we respect that, and that's why we have different systems in place. So for anyone curious, it's available on both of our websites. So okay, so there's another question here. What are examples of some underrated programs? So what would you say is an underrated program?
Oh, that's a good question. I would actually agree. You talked about education first. And I think that that's a really good example because oftentimes many people will go towards orphan kind and the sponsorship, which actually does include, the education of a child, but specifically an orphan. And so with education first, there's a lot more involved. It's not just limited to orphans. It can include building a school, but it can also, include providing school materials. And for us here in the US, it also includes bridging the digital divide. And so not many people have access to internet. And that became especially clear during COVID when everything was remote learning and many children got left behind. And so I think education first is a highly underrated program.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely. I mean, I love education first. But I think domestically as well, right? I think we think that because we see poverty internationally and we see the need there, and of course the need is huge, we forget that there's also poverty at home and that there is need at home and that there are folks who are going to sleep without food. There are kids going to school without school supplies, and I think that can be overlooked at times. So I would say that's an underrated program that people aren't seeing the amount of investment that we put domestically in our programs, and like you guys do as well. So
just domestically.
Yeah, I would say that is.
If there's one thing you would want our donors, our viewers to know, what would it be?
One, we really appreciate you. But also, I think all of Penny Appeal Canada, Penny Appeal USA, you have people who are incredibly dedicated to the work, right? And people who are really passionate about it. And we are trying to do our best and do right by our beneficiaries and our donors. So I hope that you know that we really appreciate your trust, and I hope that we're doing right by it. So yeah, that's what I want them to know.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. It's a fine balance being able to, we understand we're being trusted with your funds and your donations. But then we also have to, respect the people that we're helping on the ground, and finding that balance is something we're constantly striving towards.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, this has been a really fun conversation, Komal.
Yeah, this was really fun. We should do this more often, Shafaq. Someone needs to give me access to the lives.
We're just gonna pop on here every once in a while,
periodically. Marketing will get upset, but that's okay. So, do you have any fun plans for tomorrow? It's Friday.
I'm so excited. I'm gonna try to get to the rock climbing gym and go climbing for a little bit.
Fun.
You know, a little stress relief free weekend.
That is really fun.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I don't have a lot of meetings tomorrow, so I'm very excited for that. So I'm gonna get some work done, and then I think I'm gonna go for a walk. I normally try to go for a walk every day. I mean, okay, I've been trying that for 10 days, but for the
That's
past few
sweet.
days, I haven't.
Hey, that counts.
Yeah, I think it takes 14 days to form a habit. I mean, I'm a little behind, but maybe I'll go do that tomorrow. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, someone said no. Please do this more often. Thank you.
All right, we got some support out here. Programs will be back on Across the Border. There's no doubt about that. Tune in every month to hang out with someone from PA USA and PA Canada. But thank you so much, Komal, for this. I had so much fun.
Thank you, and thank you to Huda and Zaire for putting this together. So yeah. Okay. How do we?
My daughter is afraid of the dark. But me, I'm afraid of the light. See, darkness can be a gift. Darkness can keep our secrets hidden. Our shame, our fear. It can provide you cover while you run. There's so many of us trying to survive in the shadows. Now I know that there's love in the light. And it reveals that our stories are as different as our scars. Her world is silent. But here, we all know what it is to exist in a tunnel of silence. To be afraid of the light. It's so often in the darkness that we find our strength, that we overcome.